Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. It is cold outside in Colorado, so we're inside trying to stay warm. It's pretty cold in here too. And I thought we would do something on what has become one of my favorite things to do on a bike, which is fakie. Fakie is just riding the bike backwards. I spent 56 years not knowing how to do this, and I finally got fed up last year and decided I was going to figure it out. It wasn't easy for me, but I think I have some ideas on how to make it easier for you. So this is the video that I wish I would have seen before I started. I'm not claiming to be some expert. I am just learning this stuff. And because I just learned it, it's kind of fresh in my head. I'm also joined today by my good friend Sean. Oh, I love that. And Sean's fakie is awesome. Fakies feel amazing. Other than whips, probably the best feeling on a bike. The other thing I love about fakies is I feel like this is my world when I'm riding a bike, and now this is my world back here too. Whether it's snowboarding, skateboarding, skating, running, walking, I think as humans, it's very natural to go in all dimensions in space. The fakie opens that up on the bike. It makes the bike even better, if that's possible. That all just means that fakies bring a lot of joy. On the trail, you can roll up to something, roll back, stay on the pedals. It gives you more options. You can flip around, you can show off a little bit, and it's just because it feels great. And that's why we ride. I ride for how cycling makes me feel. And when it comes to feelings, fakies are way up there. Best feeling in flatland. But these things are not made to go backwards. This thing has the steering on this end. It takes a long time to learn to ride a bike, and it is absolutely harder to learn to ride a bike backwards. But if you put the time in, I'm 100% positive that you will get this. Because it's so fresh in my mind, I've got some ideas of how we can skip some of the problems that I had. I started learning the slower weight over the front wheel fakie. And I think this happens to a lot of people. When I tried to fakie further, I hit a dead end and I didn't know why. Then, like a fakie miracle, I came across this video from Max at Useless Trials. In this video, Max showed that there are two kinds of fakies. The fakie that you see all the time is the fakie where the weight is over the rear wheel. That fakie is the only fakie that will actually work at speeds. And I had learned essentially the one that's a dead end. As soon as you're going a little faster, it stops working. I spent probably 3 months not knowing what was wrong. So now I had to learn the fakie with my weight over the rear wheel. Not a big deal, right? Huge deal, because what you do with the handlebars is completely opposite. Have you ever seen those bikes that steer in the opposite way of a regular bike? So if you turn to the right, the wheel goes to the left. And then people try to learn to ride that thing, and it's super hard. It takes a long time. But the crazy part is, after they learn to ride that strange bike, when they get on a regular bike, they can't ride that. Learning that slower, weight forward fakie, that's the dead end I don't want for you guys. So I recently spent some time with my friend Nate teaching him to fakie. Using all the techniques that I'm gonna share today, we got Nate doing some short fakies in one day. I've seen Nate in other videos, he's kind of a freak, so don't expect this to all work out in one day. Took me a year. There's gonna be a zillion fails on the way to success.
Just have fun, smile, and enjoy it. That's what it's all about, and it'll make it a lot easier.
Every time you go a little bit further, you just set a world record for yourself.
Yeah.
My son and I love to do our own announce, you know, Bukowski with a new world record. Ah! If it's not fun, you're not gonna stick with it. And if fails aren't fun, then you ain't gonna stick with this, because it takes some time. All right, step one, you're gonna need a way to stop going forward and start going backwards. And there's 3 ways that are pretty good to start: a curb or a wall. All we have here is flat ground. It's much better if you can find an incline where you ride up to a wall, a flat ramp, a curved ramp, it doesn't really matter. Final option is a front brake if you've got a bike with a front brake. You could also 180 into a fakie or nose wheelie into a fakie. If you are doing those things, you probably already know how to fakie. When you're learning fakies, it's not uncommon to smash your shins. I highly recommend getting a pair of shin pads. Most of us mountain bikers don't have shin pads. I'll put a link in the description. We're going straight to the fast fakie, which is the one that will work at speed. But let's look at some of the slow fakies and the weight forward so you know what to avoid. I'm just gonna show a whole bunch of what it might look like when your weight's too far forward And when you're just trying to figure it out, do a lot of those. I did hundreds and hundreds of those attempts. Like now that feels less safe.
Yeah.
But I agree,
yeah.
being forward felt like safety.
Yep, initially.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
All my fakie injuries are from weight on the bars. Because man, when the wheel comes around and your weight is on the bars, it comes around fast. It will put you down. It will put you down on your wrists. It feels safer to get forward, but you want to get back. The big mistake was that I kept my weight forward. If all the attempts look a little bit more like this and your body position is right, you're building towards something. Let me just show what a good failed attempt would look like. Just getting my weight in the right place. That's a better fail. What we want is we want our weight back over the rear wheel. But you don't want to have your weight too far back when you're up at the top of the ramp. You're going to want to be centered, and then as you get to this transition, you're going to want to swing your weight back. I'll show you what that looks like. Coming up, controlling my speed, little hop, and then weight back. What often helps is a little hop. I don't know why. I think it sort of hangs the bike under you and centers you, so that's really effective. With the mountain bike, I gotta focus even more on getting back. I just wouldn't get my pedals moving backwards. And I found that with Nate, a great way to get this is on the way in, begin rehearsing your body position and that back pedal. I don't know if this will happen to you, but when I'm on the ramp and I feel back pressure, it's almost like it locks me in and I can't backpedal. You want to make sure that right before the bike's about to move backwards, you begin your back pedal. So I'm rehearsing my body position and my back pedal. I get there and then I go into it. I call this rehearsal. I'm rehearsing my back pedal and then it's in my head. Practicing that body position and that back pedal, and then it comes a little bit more naturally. You need to pedal backwards. There's a speed that's right and there's a speed that's too much. We call it buzz sawing. Sean makes it work anyway. And if it works for you, then do it. And it's kind of stylish, actually. If you're riding your mountain bike, you're gonna wanna be in a pretty high gear. I am 1, 2, 3, 4 up from my hardest gear right now. Otherwise, you'll be buzz sawing. A higher gear, you can pedal back at a more leisurely pace. How do you steer when you're going backwards? Well, I touched on it before. When your weight is over the front, the steering works one way. When your weight is over the back, it works the opposite way. We're only going to talk about how to steer when your weight is over the back. And there's a really easy way to think about this. Headed that way, away from you. I start to tip this way, I pull this bar towards me. I start to tip the other way, I pull this bar towards me. I start to tip this way, I pull this bar towards me. I start to tip the other way, I pull this bar towards me. Now the reason why this works is because when I start to fall this way and I pull this bar, it actually sweeps the back end of the bike under me and it catches my weight. You'll see that in slow motion, how that works. I think that's why fakies feel so good, because it's just this sort of catching motion where you're catching yourself, and it's amazing. When you're on the bike, it's a little bit easier to remember, because if you start to tip to the left, pull the left bar. If you start to tip towards the right, pull the right bar. I couldn't be that analytical about it while I was doing it. So there's a few ways to get your brain to learn this motion faster. One is really funny. When you come off the wall, wiggle the bars back and forth. 50% of the time, you'll be doing the right thing, and your brain will start to decode which direction it should be pulling to keep your balance. You can use that in combination with another drill that I love. You sit on the seat as you're rolling backwards with your feet out. Because you're on your seat, you're doing a rear weighted fakie, and so you're able to get that feeling of the counter steer. If you look at the stem, When you're doing this, it helps. Just dab to catch yourself. So take those 3 and just toggle between the 3. One being actually thinking, if I'm falling to the right, pulling the right bar. The other being just a wiggle. And the final one being a seated rollback where you're pulling on the bars and making those shapes. If you move between those and don't spend too long on any one, I think that it begins to rewire your brain for this new kind of steering. Okay, you are getting going backwards, you are working on your steering, and occasionally you're going to find that you just automatically begin to turn out. There's a bunch of ways to end a fakie. We're going to just focus on the 2 that probably will be most helpful right now. The simplest way to finish your fakie is to just apply some pressure as you're rolling backwards and just come to a gradual stop and then ride off forward. Nicest way to finish your fakie is to turn out. And at the beginning, you'll just randomly be turning out one direction or another. The key to make this work is as you start to feel yourself beginning to turn around, add a little pedal pressure, which will control it and actually lighten the front end, and then turn your head and bars in the direction that you're coming out. So if you're coming out this way, apply the pedal pressure and then turn your head and turn your bars. It's going to take a whole bunch of experimentation. You're going to get one though. And once you get one, everything's going to click. Later, as you get more comfortable, you start to turn out of the fakie on purpose. I'm pedaling backwards, I flick the bars, and then I apply pressure. That lightens the front end. I turn my head and the bars, and I roll out. You want to be rotating the same direction you would rotate a 180 or a 360. So in my case, my right foot is back, and so I rotate into that foot. If your left foot back, then you would rotate this direction. Sean was just saying, maybe the perfect way to do it is go into it with your normal foot position and then come out of it in your normal foot position. I'm not sure it matters. Like most things, bike and BMX, there's always somebody doing it both ways and every way. And as long as it brings you joy, it's right. We've been getting so many comments from people who are taking the instruction and then going out into the driveway and for the first time achieving bunny hops or manuals, and it's so cool. The key is not so much the video. I try to help as much as I can with the video, but it won't work unless you go and you put in the time. If I could make a video where you'd watch the video and then you could just do it, I wouldn't make it because I would steal all the joy. All the joy is in the process. Wear your pads, stay safe, and keep smiling. You got this. It was an awesome day. I hope that you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. If you did, hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more, hit the
subscribe button
and
ding that bell.
We will see you next time on Joy a Bike.